Hi and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Hein and my wife Mienette and I are building a homestead on a farm in the Klein Karoo region of South Africa. Today's video will be about water matters again. We've had no significant rain over the last 3 months, so we'll have a look at the stuff that we've been doing to mitigate the drought. We'll have some feedback on the borehole that we've put in for our watering hole for the animals. We'll also look at the rainwater harvesting tank that we've installed, and we'll have an insert about the installation of another water tank in our tank farm. We'll also have a look at all the trees that we've planted over the last year or two. Our watering hole for the game animals dries up during the dry season, and I fitted a solar borehole pump with pipes down to the watering hole. This is documented in a previous video. The water flows from the pipe outlet into the dam. I only run the borehole pump for a few hours every day, sufficient to keep the dam from drying up. For reference, I planted a stick at the then water line before I started filling the dam. As you can see from the tracks in the mud, the watering hole is a winner. In one of the first videos on this channel, I carried this 1,000-litre water tank up the hill as our first water storage tank. This tank has now been replaced with larger tanks, and the 1,000-litre tank will be our rainwater harvesting tank for the moment. I finished the downpipe from the gutter on the front of the house into the tank and connected the tank to a booster pump. The rainwater is pumped through an under-counter water filter and will be used as drinking water and for cooking in the kitchen. During editing, I realized we only documented the installation of the first water tank. The second tank was done fairly shortly thereafter, and the third tank in July this year. These photos were taken during the installation of the third tank. Today we're starting to get ready to add a fourth tank to the tank farm. As you can see, I've got 3 tanks in the background. Since the previous video made about the tanks, we've added one more tank. That was towards the end of July. It is now mid-October and we're adding a fourth tank to our tank farm. We've also added a level indicator. As you can see, there's like a tennis ball hanging on the center tank. It's an inverted measurement, so the higher it goes, the emptier the tank is. Currently we're sitting at about 2/3 empty, 1/3 full, and this is after about 3 weeks and a few days worth of use. I've mentioned in the past that we get our water from a spring and that it's gravity feed into our tanks. Now there are some infrastructure pipes and a reservoir that is shared between 14 or 15 farms, my neighbors. So I've got 1 turn per month to fill up my tanks. Currently we use about 13 or 14,000 litres of water per month. So the tanks are enough for 1 month, but we are planning to install 5 tanks for a total of 27,500 litres. These tanks are 5,500 litres each. As you can see in front of these 2 tanks, the piping is done such that we can add another 2 tanks. But it's been a while and it's overgrown at the moment. So we'll start with cleaning and leveling the area where we want to put the fourth tank, and then we'll plumb it in. My level indicator is simply a tennis ball hanging from a piece of fishing line going into the tank, and there's a float heavy enough to lift the tennis ball floating on top of the water. So it's inverted. And each of these rings on the water tank represents about 500 litres. So you can see we've got maybe 1,500 litres in each tank. It gives us a total of 4,500 litres approximately. And our filling turn is in 5 days. So we've got plenty water. But the idea is to build up to a capacity of at least 2 months worth of water for the farm. I use these high pressure compression fittings, which is a bit of overkill since there is almost no pressure at this point. It's only the tanks, which is maybe 2 meters high, so 0.2 bars of pressure. And each of my tanks have a stop valve so I can isolate any of the tanks, and they feed into one pipe down to the homestead. So if we look at the 3 tanks, the leftmost tank is the one that is being filled. It's got a float valve at the top that stops it automatically when full, and then these tanks are just interconnected. And to just give you a picture of where we are relative to the homestead, that's about 120 meters away and about 20 to 25 meters elevation. So there in the distance you can see the 4th tank on our trailer. That's at the right, and that'll be coming up tomorrow. Without further ado, I've got a rake, I've got a hoe, I've got a level. Let's start leveling the ground and preparing it for the tank. Here you can see the crusher grit that we deployed underneath the tank to get it level and without any rocks that can puncture a hole in the bottom of the tank, and also the foam mat that we put underneath it. So there are 3 holes in the tank, 1 at the bottom, 2 at the top. At the top I just plug it off, but at the back I have a plug with a couple of 3mm holes in it just to let air out. So the tank is not particularly airtight, but I do have a few holes in the back that won't allow any mosquitoes or bees in, but will let air out. So all that remains, as I said, is for me to plumb in the tap, and that's what we'll be doing next. In order to plumb in the new tank and the tap, I need to close off each of the individual tank taps for me to be able to cut this line and put a T-junction in there without losing any water. I mentioned previously the tennis ball level indicator. What I failed to mention was that the purpose of the level indicator and the size and the color of it is for me to be able to see the level of the tank from the farm, from the house. So with the 2 new tanks that will be installed in front of the rear 3, there's a gap that I should be able to see the ball through. But if I can't, then I will be moving the level indicator to one of the front tanks. To finish off today's video, a quick look at what we've planted so far. Before winter, we bought and planted 2 white Korea trees. These were small enough to transport in the car. They have at least doubled in height since, and they're now taller than me standing up. We also recently planted grapevines in front of the deck. The idea is for them to decorate the front of the house below the deck. This paperbark thorn tree has also grown somewhat in the almost exactly 1 year since we planted it. The same can be said of the house in the background. We have 3 of these thorn trees. The first fruit trees we planted were 2 pomegranate trees. Here we can see them now and what they looked like originally. Our other fruit trees include 2 fig trees, an apricot tree, a lemon tree in the front, and a naartjie tree in the back. That's a tangerine for non-South Africans. At the borehole, we decided to start a nuttery. Currently, we have 2 almond trees and 2 pekannut trees. These are watered directly from the borehole. We're taking a chance with the trees this far from the house, but we hope that the wild animals are not as crazy about nut trees as they are about fruit trees. Well, that's it for this update. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm leaving you with a visual of one of the reasons I would not trade this place for anything in the world. See you next time.